Hey, Brandy. Okay, so, not too terribly off with what you did. It's not too terrible. And then thank you for describing to me why you would have chosen to bracket with your shutter instead of your aperture. And then the reason why we ask you to do half stops actually is because the Sekonics, which we recommend really for any photographer, defaults to half stop settings, and you can actually change your camera to half stop settings as well. But you know, that's your answer for that one. But you can also, what you can do for this assignment that I would have accepted, which would have been perfectly fine, is you can go into your light meter and then change it to default to 1/3 stop settings so it matches your camera, and that's fine too. Frankly, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. And then, and I appreciate that you didn't want to change your depth of field because it was already going to be pretty narrow at f11. Why would you shoot at f13 and f11? Huh. Oh, because you wanted a really deep depth of field. I see. Okay. And then the other reason that we ask you to bracket with your aperture for this is because in this class you're using continuous tungsten lights, and they're not actually very bright. They seem really bright when you have them on, but they're not very bright, so it sort of limits your available shutter speeds if you're shooting people. Because, you know, even if you think your model's sitting still, you really can't shoot them anything lower than 1/60th of a second, or else you're going to catch them doing whatever it is that they do. They just move. I don't know why. Models cannot sit still. And so if you were going to bracket, if you were going to try and shoot at multiple exposure levels, exposure values rather, you're gonna wind up doing it probably with your aperture. And then typically we don't bracket with ISO because we're kind of limited. If we want to make a big print with something, we're kind of limited at what ISO we can shoot at so that it doesn't get too grainy. Right. So, that being said, you chose a few different white balance settings. Daylight, cloudy, shade, tungsten, and then you mentioned yourself, you didn't care for the fluorescent very much. And then we read in the lecture and in the notes that human beings respond a little bit more positively to light sources that have Kelvin temperature ratings that are kind of lower on the Kelvin scale, like so 4,500 and below. And all of your choices minus the fluorescent do. Of course, fluorescent lights, you'll remember, are going to be up around 6,000. They're considered hot in the Kelvin temperature scale, but to us aesthetically they feel very cool and they're not very pleasant. And so I'm glad that you agree with that because it shows that you have similar sensibility in regard to that. So hopefully I answered your questions here. If you asked me questions over the weekend and I wasn't able to get back to you because I ended up losing my internet, I am so sorry. I hope that wasn't too frustrating. That won't happen again for several weeks. Okay, and then I don't have all of your exposure settings, so all I know is that you changed your well, I guess these look, what I was going to say is that your exposure values don't look significantly different to me, but maybe they are a little bit different. I don't know. I'm just going to stop this here because it's hard for me to tell, actually, looking at this. So I feel your frustration, and but this looks fine. I mean, these are really interesting. The compositions are gorgeous. The way that you're using these shadows as compositional elements is working out really beautifully. So, yeah, they look nice. Okay. Thank you, Brandy.